Oh, good afternoon. You guys are the front lines, I understand. Everyone's answering the phone, so I'm going to kind of gear this, no pun intended, for the kind of calls you guys get. It's not a, I mean, even though it's a PowerPoint, it's, if it's a, you know, I'm a train, if I get derailed, I can get right back on track. So don't hold your questions back, just throw them at me and we'll deal with them as we get them, okay? How many of you are familiar with the American valve line at all? A couple? Okay. So we are now in AD, which kind of brought us to reacquaint ourselves with each other. Being out of AD, we sort of fell out of the picture a little bit. So we are here, we are available. We are available to help you field any questions, to go out in the field, anything that comes up with. And hopefully within the next, probably going to be 45 to 50 minutes, we'll give you enough information to be able to ask the right questions. We don't expect you to answer them all. That's why you have Tony and I at the other end of the phone to answer your questions for you. So there are some very particular opportunities for this valve. It's not a very broad line of valves. It's not like an Apollo. It's not like a Matco. It's not like a Hammond, Milwaukee. So it has a very specific offering. Even though we do offer other valves, the offering is really two series of valves, the 4000 and the 3700. They're quarter turn valves, they're flanged or Victaulic grooved end valves. And what I'm going to give you is some information that will help you understand the differences, because you guys are carrying flanged ball valves, correct? You carry, whose do you carry?
Red, white.
Red and white, okay. All right, so we have a distribution center in Nevada. Our corporate headquarters are in Greensboro, North Carolina. We have a corporate office in Atlanta, which is mostly the customer service people. And then we have an international consolidation center in good old China.
Where did you say the distribution center is?
The distribution center is in Reno, Nevada. That's our western distribution center. Your stuff is going to come out of Greensboro, North Carolina. And it's usually shipped within a day. Okay, so just to give you an overview, these valves, and the two of them are sitting right here, and you have the literature in front of you, are flange ball valves with a patented Teflon infused ball. I will explain exactly what the advantages of that are. That is what makes this product line not only valuable, but unique and proprietary, because nobody else has this feature on their valve. And I'll explain what the advantages are. It's available in three materials: cast iron, ductile iron, and 3/16 stainless steel. And it replaces gate and plug valves as its main input into the market, in addition to other ball valves. So our sizing in the cast iron is all the way from 1/2 to 10, and the 8 and 10 are not full port, but up to 6-inch are full port valves. The ductile iron is 2-inch, again through 10-inch, but 8 and 10 are not full port. And then the stainless steel is 1.5 to 6-inch, all full port. We have ANSI 61, NSF 61 certification, and 372 lead-free certification. So as far as where our fit is in this market, it is mainly a gate valve replacement. The advantage to a quarter turn ball valve over a gate valve is extensive. Really the only advantage to a gate valve over a ball valve is you can throttle a gate valve. You're not supposed to throttle a ball valve. There's too much fluid media builds up behind the ball, and it ends up, you know, either leaking through or ruining the seats. The downside of a gate valve is they're not really full port. Most of them have a non-rising or rising stem that sends either the plug in a plug valve or sends the gate in a gate valve down into the waterway, and the water is constantly rushing up against it. That's why they're they're inherently flawed valves, even though they were the only type of valves around for decades. They're inherently flawed. Anybody that's done maintenance on lubricated plug valves, if you have customers that do it, it's an ongoing maintenance schedule. They do them on schedule. They are constantly ordering parts. So it is a expensive process to keep, especially plug valves in process. So we have the same face-to-face measurement, ANSI flange dimension, as a gate valve. So what it allows somebody to do is pull the gate valve out, and with the same end-to-end dimension, they don't have to do any other piping. They just bring in the flange, and now they've got a quarter-turn valve. So it's really, quarter-turn valves have really taken over the industry, especially residential, not so much in industrial and commercial because of the existence of the habit of putting in gate valves. There are still, you know, hundreds of thousands of gate valves sold because nobody's been sold on an option, especially in affordable. Usually a ball valve in a commercial industrial setting is going to be more expensive than a gate valve. Ergo, let's just put them in a gate valve. So we talked about the special Teflon impregnated ball. We're going to go over that in a little more detail. It has Teflon seats, and there's special Teflon seats. We'll go into that as well. It has a powder coat finish, epoxy powder coat finish on the inside of the valve. Both series of valves do. So it's no lead, but it's also not corrosive because it's epoxy coated. We do in-house activation. Do you have a gear activation shop here, so you don't actuate your own valve? So we have in-house activation services available, electric, pneumatic, and gear op, chain wheel, hand wheel, etc. And the bubble tight closure we'll go over in more detail as well. So this is a cutaway of our valve. The Teflon infused ball is actually made from the same base metal as the body. Now most ball valves, and I believe red and white's probably the same, is a stainless steel ball. Okay, or it's a chrome plate or brass ball. Usually a stainless steel ball. What American did, and it was over 17 years ago, is they got DuPont to find a way to infuse Teflon into metal. And they did do it. It goes 8 mils. I'm going to skip ahead here. So it goes 8 mils deep. Everybody dizzy? It goes 8 mils deep into the metal itself, which according to DuPont makes the metal now stronger than the virgin metal itself. So in our cast iron valve, we have a cast iron ball. Now as you guys know, cast iron is corrosive. So when they impregnate that metal with Teflon, it is no longer corrosive because it is filled. Then they electroplate the outside of the ball, and I'm sure some of you remember Teflon pans. That was a surface coat that can scrape off. This is actually in the metal, 8 mils deep. So it actually goes into the metal, and then we put a surface coat on the ball itself. Now the advantage to that is mainly so it's not corrosive, but we're going to get into a couple other benefits to that in a minute. Okay, so this is our Teflon infused ball. The lever action on our valve is actually, and a lot of contractors like this bolt can unscrew, and this is actually pipe size. So you could actually, if you needed a cheater bar, because the thing's been, you know, hasn't been cycled in a long time, you can put a piece of pipe in there and you'll be able to get some leverage on it. You can also take this out for safety purposes, so nobody can bump against it or actually open or close it. And then you can see up where the valve is the direction of flow, whether it's open or closed, because this is actually angled. So it has that advantage. These are the, and I'll pass this around, we actually have our own seats made for us. This is the main seat that the ball sits against. There's a floating seat behind it. So what happens is, by virtue of the design of this valve, it is a bidirectional valve. It can be put in either way. That's an advantage if it's been sitting and there's some buildup in one side. You can actually take it out, flip it, cycle it, and you'll clean everything out of the valve. So what we have is, and I'll explain this in a little more detail. If you have, and it's only in situations where you have fluid media that's either hot or cold. If it's normal temperature, ambient temperature is not going to make a difference. Metal expands and contracts with heat and cold. If you have a cast iron valve with a stainless steel ball, at high temperatures, that ball is going to expand. If it doesn't expand as quick as the cast iron body, that stainless steel ball, it's going to increase your torque rate. It's going to be hard to open and close it. Ergo, if you're cooling and the ball shrinks at a different rate than the body, then fluid media is going to get by. So by having the same metal as the valve itself, we have what's called a Class 6 bubble tight enclosure. Nothing can go either way. So between the fact that we have that same tolerance with the body and the ball, we have a floating, behind that seat we have another floating seat that actually, if you're, regardless of which way the fluid media is going, it's going to help seat that for a Class 6 bubble tight enclosure, which is important for a lot of reasons, which we'll get into. So this is our literature. It's extremely detailed. It's detailed. It should have everything that you will need for a customer when they ask. It has features and benefit. It has applications on the first page. Plumbing, water treatment, wastewater plants, irrigation, industrial, HVC, and gas. It has the cutaway inside. It has the ratings, and also has, for actuation purposes, it has the operating torques towards the back. And then it has a little bit of information about the metal itself, cast iron, ductile iron, stainless steel. So those are very helpful pieces. Installation, I mean, this is just from our customers. Installation is very simple, extremely easy to operate, and it's got a great handle design. There's green building benefits. The zero leakage, the bubble tight enclosure is important for applications like hot water, hydronic systems, solar, and water quality with the fact there's an epoxy lining and it's no lead. It's FDA approved. And it's got no VOCs and lead free. So they can be used in green buildings. Let's start with the cast iron, which is the most economical valve. It matches up with everybody else's cast iron valve as far as the material. It has the food grade epoxy coating. Again, same end-to-end dimensions as a gate. The Teflon seat with the Teflon ball is called lubricity. It allows the Teflon against Teflon to require less torque than it would on a stainless and a Teflon seat. So if you're actuating, which a lot of buildings are now doing, automatic actuation, then you're going to use a smaller, lesser torque operator, which is going to cost less money, so it makes you even more competitive. It has a blowout-proof stainless steel stem, reinforced Teflon seats. It's lockable in full or closed position. You can see it's got the lock plate at the top, so you can padlock it. We talked about the size, Class 6 positive shutoff. It's 125 steam, 200 water, oil and gas, 352 degrees. While this is fine in a steam application, we really, because it's only 125, we ask that it be put further down the line, not where the steam is going to be really hot. Mainly because the Teflon, with the fact that it's a Teflon seat and Teflon coating, the steam is going to get way too hot. So as long as it's on the further end of the steam tunnel, you're fine with steam applications with these valves. It has an ISO mounting pad on it, which is a universal setup, same bolt pattern. So whether it's remote control or anybody else's actuator, it will fit on top of that valve, the 4000. And again, the advantage of the removable and adjustable length of the handles. The 4000D is probably the strongest valve we sell. And the reason for it is its metallurgy, which you can see in the back of that handout, is similar to carbon steel. And carbon steel is almost twice the price of ductile iron. So if you're quoting against a carbon steel valve and you're quoting ductile iron, which is acceptable in most applications, if you need help getting that, variance from somebody, just call Tony and we'll help you with that variance. But basically, if it's looking for that rating, 150 steam, 300 water, oil, and gas, and that's equivalent to the carbon steel, you'll beat them every time. So it has comparable elongation with the metal of carbon steel, superior corrosion characteristics. It's preferable to carbon steel in water applications because it's not as corrosive as carbon. Again, the replaceable handle, the lower torque Teflon infused ball, 2 through 10 inch, full port through 6. Popular with industrial wastewater processes where cost, torque, and material buildup on ball are important. And then we have a 4001, which is in very corrosive environments, swimming pools, places that are treating boilers with, chemicals, and there's actually chemicals in the ambient air, and you need a stainless steel outside valve. So it's comparable in price to the competition's reduced port, but we're full port up to 6 inch, and flow is everything when it comes to processing. And this one's also 150 and 300. So these are some of the industries which are mentioned in the front of the brochure: pulp and paper, wastewater, hospitals, universities, non-sanitary food processing, textile, marine, anywhere gate like this. I'm sure you guys cover probably every single one of them. Meter sets. So our accessories, all the valves, like I said, are pre-drilled with an ISO mounting pad. Because of the lower torque, it's less expensive to actuate. We have gear ops, chain wheel operators, and we'll get you, you guys have access to pricing? Is it in your system, or?
Bob's gonna know that answer.
Yeah, I don't, at this point, I would say probably no.
Okay. So, I mean, you've purchased these valves before, so some of the sizes will be in your system.
Oh, the products are probably built, but it's whether the
Not
pricing
all the
is,
sizes, or gear ops, or op nuts, or all the accessories too.
The accessories probably,
Probably.
yeah, but the valves themselves are definitely gonna be in there, it's just if the pricing's updated.
Okay. Well, we'll get with Bob and make sure that's done. But all these, the op nuts and everything are listed, chains are listed as separate accessories on the price sheet. And again, we can either supply, we use remote control actuators, but again, if you want to send it out to a shop, I mean, it'll accept any actuator. So, not to go into detail about breakaway torques, but these are much lower if you looked at red and white's breakaway torques. And again, it's just virtue of Teflon against Teflon. So when we actuate, we size based on the torque, the input energy source, the application media, and the pressure, and whether it's a manual gear operator or electronic or pneumatic actuators. So these are our gear operator specs. Probably meaningless to everybody, including me. Except when you need a gear operator, they'll size it right for you. Normally mounted with the hand wheel shaft to the side for standard applications, the gear wheel. Can be mounted with the hand wheel shaft parallel if they need it. Options are the op nut and a sprocket rim, guide, chain wheel operator, and a chain. Electronic actuators for 120, and then also optional for 24 VAC. Standard EMA 4. Position indicator, declutchable manual drive. If you're doing electronic actuation, those probably familiar to you. Size is 6 inch to 10. And our pneumatic. Size for standard clean water or air applications. You can use these valves in air applications. Double acting, air to open, air to close, and a spring return. So this, if you're not sure of all the particulars that you're quoting, this is our checklist, our data sheet, and we can get that to you, and all it needs to be filled out, we'll size the actuators for you. You can actually rebuild part of the valve. This is the top works of the valve, and all those items are replaceable. And I think that's in the handout as well, so you know which part you're asking for.
Is that on all of them or just the 4,000?
No, that's on all of them.
Yeah, it's
I
on
see it now.
the ductile and the carbon. And the cast iron, ductile and stainless, yeah. So now we go to our 3700 valve, which has a lot of the same features as far as flange to flange dimension. It's a direct replacement for a gate valve. It's also 200 water and 200 degrees. So you can see it's got a lower temperature rating, and it's got a water and gas rating only, WOG. This cannot be used in steam applications. This is a great water valve. It has a couple of features that the 4000 does not have. It has the same Teflon infused ball, the exact same as the 4000 series. Meets the same 61 FDA and 372 certification. Again, it's a class 6 positive shutoff. Has the same seat setup and the ball. This is a big one. It's tapped and plugged for venting downstream or for a backflow preventer. So it's got plugs on both ends, so you can either put a gauge in or it can be tested, whereas the 4000 does not. So this is used a lot with backflow preventers. It's an ideal application for it. It is not rebuildable like the 4000. It is not steam rated and is lower pressure rated. So replaces standard gate valves, epoxy coated inside, 2 through 8 inch in full port, positive shutoff, low torque, ideal for liquid air or backflow applications. So I mentioned this is the core, the 4,000-3,700 of American's offering. We do have brass valves, we have press fit valves, we have shark bite type valves. We have boiler drains, gas valves. We have a big line of thermoplastic valves. Everything from diaphragm valves to flanges and butterfly valves. I don't know, who are you, Nibco or?
Speakers.
Spears, okay. So, I mean, if you needed something quick and Spears was out of it, then we might be a good option. We also have Y strainers and we have balancing valves, but we're not as competitive as almost everybody else out there. They're kind of convenience items. If somebody's placing an order, they need something they can throw in. But really, the meat potatoes is the 4,000 and the 3,700. Now it's time for all those questions that are building up.
I didn't catch your name,
Steve.
and you're right with American.
No, I'm actually with Mid-Atlantic.
You're with Mid-Atlantic.
Yeah, I'm the more seasoned technical guy, so Tony is just coming up this
I'm
week.
just here for effect.
Here to learn like you guys are.
And I know we used to deal with Wes at American
Yeah.
Valve, and he's not there anymore. Who do you recommend?
Well, there's two main people. There's Leysa, L-E-Y-S-A, and Mary,
Ella? and-
L-E-Y-S-A, and Mary.
And Mary.
Yeah, now, they were on the other side of the business. They have a big retail presence for some of the shelf brass stuff, the smaller valve, plastic valve. And they were brought over when Wes left. And I wouldn't count on them for technical
Okay.
information right now until they're up to speed. Do you remember a name, Dave Zagary? Because I know Dave knows Jim. You remember Dave? So he's semi-retired. He's down in Florida, and he's still under contract as a consultant. So if you need, I mean, he's the brain trust for product information. So if you can't get an answer from Leysa or from Mary, ask them to contact Dave, and he'll or you know when Tony gets up to speed. But for now, I'd ask for Dave because you can get an answer from him. What they're trying to do, though, so you know, is they're trying to, and I don't, if it's time sensitive, just ask for Dave. If you can wait a few hours, we really want them to come up to speed. So if they just pass you on to Dave, then they're brought out of the loop, same as you guys. You know, we'd rather have her ask Dave, what's the answer to this, so she gets knowledgeable, so next time somebody calls, she can answer. So, but if you need an answer quick, just ask her Dave.
Okay.
What else?
Well, we get sometimes calls for people looking for larger valves for natural gas. And it looks like you have natural gas listed as an application.
Mm-hmm.
I don't mind, quoting somebody, but when they get into where they need a certain certification, is there any specific certifications that American Valve has for natural gas, or is it just that it's rated for natural gas? I know that there's like a CSA and sometimes even UL listings. Sometimes if I
Having UL on
don't
there.
have it, I'll kind of say, well, I don't have that certification, but I have
Yeah.
this one. So.
I will find that out.
There you go, you gotta make them work, man.
Yep.
That's why we invite Doug every time.
Well, and, usually on like the smaller valves, 2-inch and under, there's the bread and butter ones that have a CSA approval
Right.
or some kind of UL approval.
It's usually CSA.
Yeah, and usually it's for the lower pressures. But when they're talking bigger valves, they're usually dealing with more of the main supply coming to them. And I'm not knowledgeable enough to even know if there is a specific.
Or to take that risk.
Yeah, and there again, I mean, there's other companies out there that say, yeah, our valves are good for, are acceptable for use with natural gas, but
Right.
nobody's really.
What parameter?
Yeah, it's like, is there a parameter out there? And I always am kind of leery when the customer says, because most times I say, well, most ball valves out there can be used with natural gas. The question is, do you have a certification that it needs to meet? So.
do you guys have cards? Because I'm sure if either you can distribute it to them,
Yeah.
because I'm sure they'll want to know too.
Yeah, yeah.
Or I can include everybody in the email, which is easiest.
Well, I mean, you can send it to me. I'm usually get stuff out to them, so it's Douglas, and then a period, Zimmerman, at ipspipe.com. Yeah. But,
Do you like Douglas or Doug?
well, I usually go by
For-
Doug,
okay.
but yeah. Doug, I won't yell anybody for saying Douglas. So.
Mr. Wonderful.
Usually somebody's saying Douglas to me if I'm in trouble.
Yeah.
So.
That's like when people use Steve and I.
Yeah. So.
Okay, good question. Appreciate that. So, I mean, basically, you're not going to, if somebody calls and says, you know, everybody carries gate valves, no matter who your competition is. American is, the spread between an IPS, which is a stocking distributor, and other companies is so far to give you an advantage in the market. Primarily for bid and spec stuff, but also for daily, you know, applications. So, I mean, if you get the opportunity, somebody says, I need a 6-inch, you know, flanged gate, you know, and you can check your pricing first, but you may make more money on selling the ball valve. And everybody prefers quarter turn unless they're set up just to use gate valve. So, I mean, if somebody, I mean, I'm sure, you know, people ask for a quarter turn ball valve, you're quoting red and white all the time. So you'll probably see a big difference in the price of these versus red and white, an advantage. So if there's an opportunity to make more money, to make more margin, that's our fit.
And none of these are made in the USA, correct?
Unfortunately not. It's the first thing
The
people
name
ask,
is
because it's
just
called
amazing.
American valve. But yeah, the castings are made in India, actually. So fortunately, they're not in China, but it won't meet by America.
Okay.
Yeah, one drawback. So do you actually have customers that have called and asked for a 4,000 valve? Is that where you're selling them? They're already familiar with
Or
it?
they specifically asked for the American valves, yeah.
Yeah, there's some customers, because when we used to stock the American, that's what they prefer, and always keep on asking. York Air's one where it's like, even if I quote them, you know, the stocking red white, they're sometimes come back saying, give me a price on the 4,000. I'm like, okay. So yeah.
I wonder if that's just price or habit. Contractors are very habitual. You know, they're if it's not broken, don't fix it.
Well, and there again, it's also like you said, I wasn't aware that of the torque rate, and you know, knowing that that might be also part of the thing where they've gotten valves in there, and they're like, well, the American valves open every time, and da, da, da. I'm not sure if that's the case, but that in itself would almost make sense on why somebody might be preferring your valve over a red white that we stock, and I know from experience going out to even open somebody's red whites, I'm like, you know,
Yeah.
because I do recall probably within the last year somebody complaining about, you know, trying to open a valve. It won't open, and we get it back, and I do get it open, but it took some
Some leverage.
yeah, it took some leverage to do it.
We
So
wish we had pictures of the gyrations he.
well, and it's 1,000% more difficult when you're dealing with a valve that's not in line versus a valve that's already in line, because you're like, okay, somebody here holds this
Somebody's got
valve.
a hold of it. Yeah,
So-
it's very
Like I
difficult.
said, we wish we had pictures.
So, but yeah, knowing that, it kind of makes more sense there. So maybe you can beat on Bob a little bit more to find out if.
Now, is red, white, full port?
I want to say that they are.
Yeah.
There. Okay.
Yeah, pretty sure. So.
Yeah, but we've had people, even though we don't recommend it, throttle with our ball valves, because the fluid media that builds up behind that ball, you've got, again, Tefloning and then Teflon seat. All you got to do is flip the valve around, cycle it, and it cleans everything right out in most cases. I mean, they can sit for decades and they'll still cycle. So yeah, that is a big plus.
Alrighty. Thank you.
Thank you for your time. Thank you for your help.